Alexander the Great's story, the conqueror of the world. In the heart of ancient Macedonia, nestled between towering mountains and rugged valleys, a boy was born who would one day become one of the greatest conquerors in history. His name was Alexander, and he was destined to change the world forever. Born in 356 BC to King Philip II and Queen Olympias, Alexander grew up in a time of political intrigue, warfare, and ambition. From the very beginning, it was clear that he was no ordinary child. Philip, the king of Macedonia, had ambitions of his own. He dreamed of uniting the fragmented Greek city-states under his rule and creating an empire that would rival any other in the known world. As a brilliant strategist and powerful ruler, Philip believed that Macedonia could rise to greatness, and he poured his energy into expanding his kingdom and forging alliances. Yet, despite his ambitions, it was his son who would surpass him, leaving a legacy that would stretch far beyond Greece. Alexander's education was entrusted to none other than the great philosopher Aristotle. Under Aristotle's tutelage, Alexander learned not only about the art of war and leadership, but also about philosophy, science, and literature. He was taught the tales of Greek heroes like Achilles, whom he idolized, and he came to believe that he, too, was destined for greatness. Aristotle instilled in him the ideals of honor, courage, and wisdom, shaping the young prince into a leader with not just physical prowess, but intellectual depth. As Alexander grew, so did his ambition. From a young age, he displayed an extraordinary talent for leadership and military strategy. At just 16, he was entrusted with his first command when his father left him in charge of Macedonia during a military campaign. In Philip's absence, a rebellion broke out in a region of the kingdom, and Alexander wasted no time in suppressing it. Leading a swift and decisive campaign, he crushed the rebels and secured his father's kingdom, earning the respect of his troops and solidifying his reputation as a capable leader. Yet the real test came when tragedy struck. In 336 BC, King Philip II was assassinated under mysterious circumstances, and the throne of Macedonia passed to the 20-year-old Alexander. Many questioned whether the young king would be able to fill his father's shoes. But Alexander quickly proved that he was more than capable of carrying the weight of the crown. Upon ascending the throne, he immediately set about consolidating his power, eliminating rivals, and securing the loyalty of his army. With his authority firmly established, Alexander turned his gaze outward. Philip had dreamed of conquering the Persian Empire, and now Alexander would make that dream a reality. The Persian Empire, under the rule of King Darius III, was the largest and most powerful empire in the known world. Stretching from Egypt to India, it seemed invincible. But Alexander, with his unshakable belief in his destiny, was undeterred. In 334 BC, Alexander led his army across the Hellespont into Asia Minor, marking the beginning of his legendary campaign. His army, though smaller than the vast forces of Persia, was highly trained, disciplined, and fiercely loyal to their young king. Alexander's first major battle came at the Granicus River, where he faced a large Persian force. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Alexander's brilliant tactics and fearless leadership secured a decisive victory, and the Persian forces were routed. This victory set the tone for the rest of Alexander's campaign. As he marched through Asia Minor, city after city fell before him. Alexander's army was unstoppable, and his fame began to spread. But it was at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC that Alexander truly made his mark on history. There, he faced King Darius III himself, who commanded an enormous army. The battle was fierce, with the Persians vastly outnumbering the Macedonians, but Alexander's tactical genius and personal bravery once again won the day. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving behind his family and treasures. With Darius in retreat, Alexander could have claimed victory and returned home in triumph. But Alexander's ambitions stretched far beyond mere victory. He wanted to not only defeat Persia, but to unite it with his own empire and create a realm that spanned the known world. To achieve this, he continued his march, taking city after city as he advanced deeper into Persian territory. One of the most famous episodes of Alexander's campaign came in 332 BC when he laid siege to the fortified island city of Tyre. The city was heavily defended, and the siege dragged on for months. But Alexander, ever determined, found a way. He ordered his men to build a causeway from the mainland to the island, allowing his forces to breach the city's walls. After a brutal assault, Tyre fell, and Alexander's legend grew even larger. From Tyre, Alexander moved south into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator by the people, who had grown weary of Persian rule. In Egypt, Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would become one of the most important cities in the ancient world and a center of learning and culture for centuries to come. It was also in Egypt that Alexander visited the Oracle of Ammon at the Siwa Oasis, where he was reportedly declared the son of a god. This only reinforced his belief in his divine mission and further fueled his ambition. With Egypt under his control, Alexander turned his attention back to Persia. In 331 BC, he faced Darius once again at the Battle of Gaugamela, one of the most decisive battles in history. Despite being outnumbered once more, Alexander's strategic brilliance and the discipline of his troops led to a crushing victory. Darius fled the battlefield and was later assassinated by his own men, leaving Alexander as the undisputed ruler of the Persian Empire. Yet, even with the fall of Persia, Alexander's ambitions were not sated. He pushed further east into the unknown lands beyond the Persian Empire. His army marched through the deserts and mountains of Central Asia, conquering the lands of modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. It was during this time that Alexander faced some of his greatest challenges. The rugged terrain, hostile tribes, and the sheer distance from Macedonia tested the limits of his army. Yet, Alexander pressed on, driven by a desire to reach the ends of the earth. In 327 BC, Alexander crossed into India, where he encountered the powerful king Porus. The two armies met at the Battle of the Hydaspes River, where Alexander faced war elephants for the first time. The battle was brutal, but once again, Alexander's tactics won the day. Impressed by Porus's bravery, Alexander spared his life and even made him an ally, allowing him to continue ruling his kingdom under Macedonian sovereignty. However, it was in India that Alexander's men, weary from years of campaigning, finally began to question their king's relentless drive. After more than a decade of continuous warfare and thousands of miles from home, the soldiers longed to return to their families. At the banks of the Hyphasis River, on the edge of India, they refused to march any further. Reluctantly, Alexander agreed to turn back, and the long journey home began. The return to Macedonia was fraught with hardship. Alexander's army endured scorching deserts, treacherous mountains, and dwindling supplies. Many men perished on the journey, and Alexander himself was gravely injured during a battle in India. Yet, despite these setbacks, he continued to lead with unwavering determination. By the time Alexander reached Babylon in 323 BC, he had built an empire that stretched from Greece to India, covering vast territories and encompassing a multitude of cultures. But just as he was poised to embark on new campaigns, fate intervened. That year, at the age of 32, Alexander fell ill, possibly from fever or poisoning, and after days of suffering, he died. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy would live on for centuries. Alexander's empire, though vast, did not last long after his death. With no clear successor, his generals, known as the Diadochi, fought among themselves for control, eventually dividing the empire into several smaller kingdoms. Yet the impact of Alexander's conquests endured. He had spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across the known world, creating a lasting cultural fusion known as the Hellenistic era. His founding of cities like Alexandria ensured that his influence would be felt long after his empire had crumbled. In the end, Alexander the Great was not just a conqueror, he was a visionary who sought to unite the world under one rule. His extraordinary achievements on the battlefield, combined with his ambitious vision for a unified empire, made him one of the most remarkable figures in history. Though his life was cut short, his name would be remembered for centuries as a symbol of power, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of greatness.